Welcome to the Play Inspire Unite podcast. I'm your host, Ben Rycroft. This is an ongoing interview series where we like to talk to people from the staff, people from outside the organization, sort of get perspective on programs, updates, and things that are going on. Nothing bigger than what's going on recently with the Ontario Soccer Club Academy Registry, launched on January 28th. And today we're chatting with Lyn Wallington. Lyn's the Director of Member Relations and Human Resources at Ontario Soccer to talk all about Oscar. Lyn, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Ontario Soccer launched the Ontario Soccer Club and Academy Registry this week, and of course, with change comes questions. So I want to drill down into some of the ones we're looking at most, but first let's start with the why. Why are we doing this? Why Oscar? Why now?
So there's a lot of reasons behind that. The game is modernizing and moving fast, and our previous system was very antiquated. So in our strategic plan, we've worked out how we want to address the modernizing, and our systems is a big component of that. Many of our clubs have moved ahead with modernized systems. So in building Oscar as our registry, we had to ensure that we can keep up with that speed and go beyond that speed. So that's where we've taken the time to plan that. That's where the engineers and the technology at Sports Engine meets the requirements of a provincial sports organization like us, because they have the staff and the intelligence and the volume of people that we need to resource a province the size that we are.
And that makes sense. I mean, for the clubs and academies in this province, they're the storefront to the game in this province, Ontario. Oscar was built with the grassroots in mind. Speak a little to why that was and why it was necessary to connect these groups to the districts and then to Ontario.
We want to make sure that Oscar addresses what the club needs in terms of their time and their resources. So we often do things in our processes because we built it to accommodate a system that was antiquated. So as we move forward, we look at everything we do. Is it necessary? Are we doing it the most efficient way? This way we support the clubs that they can use their volunteers and their staff efficiently. Sports Engine staff even looks at every keystroke that they use. Every time they change a screen, was it necessary? Did they have to do it? Can we make it faster or more efficient? So there's also, as a repercussion of that, if we can support the clubs efficiently, then we can use the resources at the district and Ontario Soccer to support the clubs more efficiently in areas that don't have to do with manual processing. So that's where we're going.
So give us that big picture then. That platform was designed to be, as you sort of said, an evolution. It's an ecosystem with technological opportunities for clubs, academies, and districts. What does Oscar look like today, and what does the Oscar of tomorrow look like for the province?
That's probably the most exciting part, that the clubs right now will have a place to store their data quickly or to use the tools that are there for their daily operations. But as we build, it will be to support the sport, the entire sport, and it will be able to react with the way that our environment reacts. So that's why we use the word ecosystem. So including components such as discipline, leagues, coaching, match officials, sanctioning, all of the things that make the game happen safely and efficiently behind the scenes, that's what Oscar will address moving forward. That's the future for us.
This isn't something that happened overnight. Ontario Soccer and its board of directors have been working closely to bring this needed change to fruition. We've been breaking it down into sort of three phases. For those who haven't been following along closely, walk us through those three phases so people are sort of up to speed.
We started phase one with the partnership with Sports Engine and continuing to use AIMS. And we knew that that was a phase that would take time as we determined what needed to be built to move everyone from an antiquated system onto the same superhighway. So we've moved now from that phase to phase two with the board approval, which is to say we will store the data in Sports Engine and we will build those necessary components of the ecosystem for phase three. So that's the discipline, the sanctioning, the coaching, the match officials, and the travel. So all of that will be built into the system in phase two. That we anticipate will take a few years. That will be a process that involves subject matter expert groups, people at that ground level that have to have an impact on how this system is built. So all of those modules will be built as a part of our interaction with the clubs and the districts with all those areas of expertise. So then when we move to phase three, after those few years of development are complete, we would go to the board of directors at Ontario Soccer and advise them with evidence-based data as to what the recommendation is moving forward and to move over to Sports Engine exclusively. And at that time, it would be at least a 1-year notice period to the membership that they would be moving to Sports Engine.
I want to get into the meat of the matter and address some of the questions that we've been seeing on social media and otherwise. The fees, what is the fee? Where is it going, and why is it necessary?
So I'll break it down into 3 parts to respond to you. So in terms of what is the fee, it's $3.10. So for $3.10, it was originally meant to be billed directly to the end user. As we started to roll out from phase 1 into phase 2, listening to our membership, we've realized that there is a part of the membership that's already connected to SportsEngine, and there's another part that's not yet. And so in order to accommodate everyone across the province, it was best that we took that $3.10 and rather than apply it as a typical software as a service fee is applied, which is to the end user, and that applies through most systems, we decided then to put it into the regular invoicing system and adapt our invoicing system to the membership to ensure that we're collecting it on the data that's appropriate. The second part of the question is, where is it going? It's going to SportsEngine to support the platform for real-time access to data, digital reporting and recording of data, a complete audit trail of the player's record and where it's going, and then real-time access to communication between all areas of the platform so that we're connected, not through separate systems, through one system, which will support us immediately for areas of our programming and district programming, for discipline and other requirements within the system where we touch on communication with each other. And we try to do that now through separate systems. Now it can go through one cohesive system. The third part of my answer is, why is it necessary? Every system has a fee. Ontario Soccer has chosen to be completely transparent in what this fee is and how it's being applied. That is different from what we've done before. That is the relevancy of what we're trying to accomplish. And that's why moving to the system is so important. It's a part of the way that we work with our membership in the future and how we're going to connect with transparency.
So anytime you're dealing with technology, the question of privacy always comes up. In this case, there are questions about where their data is being stored. So in the interest of transparency, let's talk about some of those privacy concerns. What have you seen so far, and what are people asking in that respect?
People are concerned that the data is being stored elsewhere. And by elsewhere, PPIDA would address that that's anywhere outside of Ontario. But when you use the data for the purposes for which it was intended, so for registration purposes, there's no need for a disclosure on that. So we are completely compliant with that area. There's also the component that Ontario Soccer is a not-for-profit. And so because we don't use commercial activity, and because this data is not going to be used for commercial requirements by Ontario Soccer, then there's no need for that level of disclosure.
So from that, let's dovetail into third-party systems, because I know that's one you've had a lot of questions about at these information sessions. So set some of those misconceptions straight.
So in order to accommodate that change, we need to ensure that the clubs understand we haven't built all of the pieces of this system that they need to use. So what they see in the existing tools isn't what we're building, and that's not what we're going to use to address the membership's needs. So we still have to build that, and we encourage them to use the third-party systems that they're using now to support their businesses. They have tournaments and leagues entered in those businesses that is their lifeblood. We don't want to change that. We want to build a system where they can move that safely and get the requirements that they need from all of us within the system.
This has been a starting point for Oscar, and I guess let's end on what's going to be next for Oscar in Ontario. Where do you see this going in 5, 10 years down the line? Paint us that picture so that people have an understanding of where this is going.
Often our systems have been thought of as solid and unmovable. SportsEngine is built, and our partnership is built that we will always adapt to the chemistry of what's happening around us. That as the sport evolves, we have to evolve, and we have to evolve in real time. We need a platform to be able to do that, and a partner willing to do that. That's what we have with SportsEngine. That's the connection with the membership. Ensuring that we use this platform to connect at that club level, we will know what their needs are. We'll see what they're using the system for and how they're using it, so we know how to make their needs more relevant to what we're doing. How do we give them the services that they need? That's what Oscar is. That's what Oscar will always deliver.
This is the beginning of a conversation, and that's been Lyn Wallington. Lyn, thanks very much for joining us here today. If you're interested in learning more about Oscar, visit ontariosoccer.net/Oscar. There's FAQs, how-tos, training videos, and for Lyn, I'm Ben. And until we see you next time, we encourage you to play, inspire, and unite.